Hi, I'm Mel McQueen, and I am the event coordinator for USPK.
My name is Adam Cozy, and I'm on the board of directors for the United States Parkour Association, or USPK. National governing bodies in general, if you look at USA Swimming, USA Climbing, any of these other national governing bodies, what they typically govern is the competition space, and making sure that everything is fair and that athletes are able to perform at their best and their highest level to continue pushing the sport. So just like a lot of other NGBs, you can still practice the sport necessarily without being competitive. There's a lot of surfers out there, for instance, who just kind of like to surf and don't pay attention to what USA Surfing is doing. But when you start getting into competitive arenas, you do want to ensure fairness, that people aren't taking illegal drugs, etc. And so that's part of the reason that USPK is hosting a national, as well as the fact that, of course, by USPK hosting it, it is parkour people, run by parkour people for parkour people. Sure. Nationals was something that we wanted to do for ages, I feel like. Um, Mostly it's a lot of coordination. Our vision was essentially to not reinvent the wheel, right? There were already several different regions that had kind of been running competition circuits, some smaller, some larger, and being able to really empower those circuits to continue their growth, but feed into something much larger was kind of our goal. So our slogan has always been United We Move. We fully stand by the fact that we want to unite the existing parkour community. So it made sense rather than to just completely start from scratch to take some of the circuits that were already doing a great job, empower them to do a good job and an even better job, and then have that feed into a national. And then that's also part of the reason we ended up partnering with SPL was we wanted something for it to go even after us, which is at the international level. So this has really just kind of been a dream come true for us to be able to actualize that. It took a little bit longer than expected. We didn't launch in 2022 like we'd hoped, but that's life. You get some setbacks, and basically we just kind of picked up and continued on that track, and we're hoping for even bigger growth this year.
So, USPK was able to run its first national circuit in 2023, culminating in an actual national championship with people from all over the US who would come up through their competition circuit in their region or who came and did an on site qualifier. And it was so exciting to see an event with athletes from literally all over the US come together and show off in skill, speed, and style in a way that is done by athletes for parkour athletes. So the rules were consistent with what we've seen. There weren't any modifications like you maybe see in some other events. So they were truly able to do what they wanted to do. And, one of the highlights I think was getting to work with SPL, the Sport Parkour League, so that right now, while there isn't a big international parkour stage for them to go to, they still have that at SPL where they got to go and compete against the best athletes from Europe and Asia. So, the whole thing was a highlight. The fact that we had so many athletes there and the performance was so high and the injuries were minimal and just the joy of having everybody together for that weekend. So USPK brought together what we call the Judges and Athletes Committee. And that committee, we reached out to a bunch of people who have a history of competing and probably coaching and are really familiar with what they've seen at different competitions in terms of rules. And so it ended up being Chris Hollingsworth, Peyton Hanna, Kai Garcia, and Frank Mejia, and then Alan Tran and myself as representatives from the board. And it was important, especially that I was on there since I had been at the first nationals and saw how we ran things, how the rules went, talked to the athletes and seen what they wanted at it. So we came together, and over the course of about 3 or 4 months, we met once a week. Thankfully, we had a great starting document that a group including Seth Ruji had worked on already that gave us a nice foundation and laid it out in sections. So we would look at it each week, and during the week we would review one section on our own and then come together and spend an hour on the phone and go through that section with all of our different comments until we could agree upon how that section was going to go. It is a really comprehensive rule book covering things like how to set up and run a competition, medical training, how to prepare for that, medic recommendations, and then really gets into how to run and judge skill, speed, and style. We spent the longest time on style, came up with what we think is a really solid rubric for judging both lines and a 3-move combo for the 2 different rounds that we'll have at Nationals for style. One of the great things about the rulebook is it's meant to be a dynamic rulebook where each year after the season we'll come back and re-examine it, look at where the sport's going, and do we need to make any modifications based upon what we saw and are seeing in parkour. There are going to be some changes for 2024, although we felt like 2023 was such a solid foundation that we're just excited to build upon it. It's nice because it's something we can build upon and not scrap and have to start over again. So we'll be still hosting 3 days. We'll have a day of on-site qualifiers for the people who didn't get a chance to go through a regional circuit, as we're still building out our regional circuits. Although we are really excited for this year to have a circuit running in the Northeast. So people in the Northeast will have a chance to come up through their regional championship and be pre-qualified coming in. One of the changes is that this year we're doing what most NGOs do, and we're requiring that people have a membership in USPK for the regional championships and at nationals. So you could buy it now and then be covered throughout the season, or you could buy it for the regional championships, or if you're doing on-sites, buy it for that. We're going to be in a different location this year because we plan on moving throughout the US so that it'll be more convenient for certain people certain years, but also a chance to just get out and see gyms that people haven't had a chance to see before. To that extent, we're so excited to go down to far Texas to Kiskaya this year because we know a lot of people haven't made it down there yet, but what an amazing looking gym. I personally am so excited to go down and see it. We're going to go down a few days early so we can get in there before we have to shut it down to get everything set up for the competition. One of the biggest things for this year is that we're ahead of the ball from where we were last year. You know, last year at this point, I don't think we had even put out a call for where the host gym was going to be. And now we already know where it's going to be. So people are going to know about these things in advance and not have this last minute planning. People know that, you know, SPL is going to be in Vancouver a month after our national championship. So they can plan for traveling to our national championship, getting to SPL, and start to plan out their summer. What a nice midpoint for your summer to hit the national championship and then cap it out with SPL at the end. So right now at the national championships, we only have one division, and that's our adult division. Now, for the most part, anybody can compete in that division. You do have to be 14 and over, and you have to compete in it for the entire season. So if you're a master or a youth that's 14 and you want a shot at coming to nationals, you just have to compete in that division throughout the season to qualify or come to on-site qualifiers. But all of the regions are running youth throughout the season up through the regional championship, and most of them are also running a masters throughout the season up to the regional championship. Our goal is to get a youth, for sure, first off, national championship running. We're in talks with a couple different groups. The problem is it takes so long to run just one age level of national championship that we can't just add in the youth on the same weekend. There's just not enough time in that weekend. So figuring out a way that we can bring all the youth together on another weekend or possibly a week to be together, get to know each other, and compete, because that's so important. That's our next generation of parkour athletes coming up. And I know, having seen it with my own kid, those friendships that she made through the parkour community with the other athletes of her age and who are doing her thing have been foundational in keeping her engaged in parkour. So we're excited to get that going. We've got a couple things in the pipeline, but they're not quite there yet to announce them right now. But we are building towards having a youth national championship. I can't wait to see them all come together. It's incredible to see what a lot of the youth around the country are doing right now. The Masters, we'll see. As a master myself, I'd love to see us get some representation at nationals, maybe a championship night. So we're going to have to investigate what we can do with that.
So, yeah, there's always going to be fees associated with competitive circuits. That's because it takes money, time, resources to run. If you are a regional athlete and you just want to compete in your region, you're going to be paying what we call like a league fee, and that's going directly to the leagues that are associated with us, but we don't see any of that money. So, for example, the West Coast League, if you are a part of that, you are just paying their fees. That helps pay their staff to run the events, to sync up with all the gyms, to make sure that there's like a common rule set, etc. So those are those admin fees. So that's independent of us. Sure. So that's where the membership comes into play for the regional final. A big part of the reason that, again, we're requiring that membership is there were a lot of athletes that were competing last year all the way up to SPL that did not have insurance. The membership fee basically helps us as an org continue to run and be able to offer things like this national circuit. It helps cover the cost of that insurance so that everyone is actually competing on a level playing ground and able to get coverage if they do get injured at the competition. Um, then there's a competition fee. The competition fee specifically is just for nationals. So if you don't qualify for nationals, you don't have to pay that at all. But if you do qualify for nationals and you go travel to nationals to compete, you'll have to pay that fee. And that fee helps us basically cover and offset the cost for the gym that's running it. Obviously, a gym can make a lot of money during a weekend. We shut that down for the weekend. So they need costs to cover the ability to shut down, the ability to pay their staff a lot of times because they're volunteering for us. So the competition fee basically covers the cost of us actually being able to host nationals at a gym, fly folks out like at the folks from SPL who are in Vancouver, Canada and Boston, to be able to come and help us like run the events. Sometimes we'll occasionally fly judges in if there aren't any good local candidates. So all of those costs are basically helped covered by the competition fee. And it's kind of a mix of both the membership and the competition fee that also hopefully help us cover athlete prize money. And we try and give as much of that back to the athletes as we possibly can. So yeah, we actually ran at a deficit last year, and this is with us running this event about as lean as possible. We had a great host venue, Apex Denver. Shout out to them for hosting us for our very first one. They did a fantastic job. They helped, source volunteers from the local community, provided a great space, gave us a ton of info about what we needed safety wise in order to be able to run the event. So we rely on that specific stuff, but in order for this event to be sustainable and for us to continue being able to offer great parkour competitions, these things require a ton of man hours, a ton of time, energy, resources from people, and we need to make it sustainable. And currently, if we were to run this at a deficit again, we would be having no more nationals after this. So the competition fees really do help us sustainably run this year after year and hopefully can start focusing on growth so that specifically a lot of that money will end up going back towards the athletes. But right now we are trying to actually just break even and create some really solid foundations for what parkour competitions look like in the US. Yeah, so there was probably a little bit of confusion around that because the WCPKC circuit had already started. The season has already started. Then they've been, one of our biggest partners and supporters for this league. But I was really impressed with the way they handled it because sending out a survey is an extremely democratic way to ask people's opinions, and that's exactly what we wanted to get. Some of our partners, I think, were a little bit concerned about the additional cost. One thing that we'd enacted this year that was different from last year was that we asked that if you're competing in a regional final, so you make it to the very end of the West Coast Division, that regional qualifier is a qualifier for that regional final is a qualifier for our national, and we were requiring membership for that. And so there's an additional cost associated with that, but we were very clear to all of our partners and to the public about the fact that membership for USPK not only helps us be able to run nationals, which even, our first year, it's expected to run at a deficit, but we cannot keep that sustainably going if it's consistently at a deficit. So we realized that membership was going to need to be a requirement this year. But membership to USPK isn't just a participation fee, right? For membership with USPK, you're getting a whole bunch of things with that. You are getting the spot insurance, so the ability to train outdoors or indoors anywhere, and being able to file, small parkour claims if you have like a small injury. And we're also, with membership, able to provide you discounts on parkour brands. You also are able to, compete in all of our events and kind of be part of our process as we continue to grow parkour. So membership is much more than just a league fee in this particular case, and it also helps fund the national prize fund so that we can actually continue to offer pro athletes prize money, et cetera. So that was really a great way to handle it because it seemed like it was a resounding, overwhelming success that people were fine paying the membership fee. So that's essentially what that was about. So we apologize for the confusion, but everything seems to have been cleared up. And yeah, we're really excited that people decided to kind of place their trust in us.
Boy, I mean, I from the beginning have had my eye on the prize for what the future would look like, and that's what we've been building out each year towards is the future. So, I would like to see in the future a full regional circuit built out where every region is hosting numerous qualifying events throughout their entire region for every age category in every discipline throughout the season, culminating in a regional championship. And then that regional championship will feed to our national championship. That would ultimately probably lead to getting rid of on site qualifiers, but that's how it works in most sports. You got to compete throughout the season and put that time in to show that you truly are the best and that it's not just best on one day, but that you've been consistently in the top and building up to that national championship. I can't wait to see us including youth in some sort of a national championship, hopefully including the Masters in a national championship. We will probably be moving towards anybody needing a membership to compete throughout the season. That is, again, the way it happens in most of the NGDs to keep their group running. I'd love to see it built out where we could start to have employees that are working on this in not just their free time, but as a job to make it even better.
I think we'd also really like to play with the formats a little bit as well. Obviously, speed, skill, style is kind of like the tried and true method. It's been really successful, but we also know that there's a whole bunch of different ways to show off what parkour and the abilities that come with it are being able to showcase those in different ways. Chase tag is obviously kind of like a parkour adjacent sport that's showing how you can kind of bring an exciting element of parkour to another game that's like one of the oldest games in the world. I do think that you're going to start to see kind of more hybrid crossovers, and we would love to do some hybrid events with things like climbing, trampolining, and kind of expand to other event styles to see what we can kind of produce with parkour. Maybe some team relays, things like that to basically show that parkour can be a team sport as well as an individualistic sport. Yeah, that's a great question. I think for parkour, I think our board was actually very split when we decided to even do a competitive circuit on whether that was the right move for parkour. Is parkour inherently competitive? And I think a lot of us kind of answered that with like, if anything, it's competition with yourself. You're always trying to better yourself and level up. So there is an element of that within the philosophy of parkour. But in general, you don't have to compete to enjoy some of the benefits of competitions, I think. One, obviously, it can be great to watch as a spectator. You can have no desire to compete, but really enjoy cheering your friends on, seeing people that you know grow and succeed. That's obviously a piece of it. I also think that competitions really tend to drive sports in general. We see a lot of innovations come from competitions. It drives people to increase their level higher and higher. It wasn't that long ago that Tony Hawk throwing a 900 was, next to impossible. And we're here 15, 20 years later, and there's an 8-year-old girl from Japan throwing the same thing that like was once the ultimate, skateboarder being able to throw. So you can just see how quickly a sport is able to progress, and parkour is progressing at breakneck speed. So competition helps drive that. The other piece of it, of course, is that competition draws people together. So pretty much after every single major event, I can tell you, having been to like some of the Red Bull events myself, just as a spectator, the reason I went was to not only cheer my friends on, but to participate in the giant jam that happened afterwards. It brought all of these amazing athletes from all over the world, and that diversity is super necessary. There's different training styles in different countries. It's awesome to see people get together from across the world and kind of share their own secret sauce, like what makes them, move in parkour, how their movement styles differ. So competitions really allow for a lot of that. And then on top of it, competitions a lot of times do bring in kind of that commercial side of things to help professionalize the sport, to get more eyes on it so that there's more opportunities for pro athletes. There's more opportunities for the sport to grow. So even if you're not a competitive person yourself, you will start to see the benefits of that. That's part of the promise of kind of the Olympics is additional funding, which makes people, excited and gets it out into the world more. So you don't, it's kind of the same thing with surfing. You don't have to pay attention to what USA Surfing is doing in order to just enjoy surfing. But that additional, revenue, the eyes on it, et cetera, can help surfing grow to kind of new heights and be able to um, host more jams, more free events. That's kind of what our hope is that as more of that becomes commercial, we're able to still continue to give back to the community by hosting national jams, and doing stuff that touches on the non-competitive side of the sport as well.
There is so much you can do to support the USPK National Circuit.
Very simply, at the very base level, if you don't have much to give, just helping us spread the word about the competition. If you like what we're doing, if you like the idea of parkour becoming bigger, having circuits that are run by actual parkour people that know what they're doing, like being able to support that and just share that message so that more people see it, more people want to compete. That's great. So you can do that for free. It takes very little effort, just clicking that share button and kind of blasting it out to your networks. The second tier, I would say, would be becoming a member. It obviously, the funds help support the competition circuit, as well as you're hopefully getting a lot of return for that as well, via the insurance, the discounts, everything like that.
It builds into bigger things like volunteering at an event to help coach, to help judge, going and competing yourself. I know that can be really scary your first time. And some people have this, well, if I'm not going to win, why go compete? Some of my best friends are people I met through doing competition. They weren't on my team, they were maybe from another gym, but it doesn't feel like you're going against each other when you're in an event. It feels like you're all there together, going through something together and cheering each other on, contributing towards the prizes for the athletes who have put in the work throughout the season.
If you do have the funds, donating to the competition circuit and to USPK specifically helps us be able to run more events. It helps us be able to provide larger prize money for the athletes. It just makes the entire competition circuit better. So if you do have a little bit extra, we really appreciate any amount of donations that you are able to give. I donated a significant amount last year because I really wanted to see prize money. I wanted to see the athletes being able to get rewarded for all of the work that they put in and train for year after year. So that was super important to me. So it's something that I'm passionate about. I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is to be able to help support this org and the continued success, hopefully, of parkour competition.
Gym owners can be involved starting, most importantly, by hosting qualifying events and regional championships for their region. The next step is if you feel that your gym can put in the time and has enough space, you could apply to host the national championship. Each year we open up a bidding process looking for a gym to host the national championship. And it's exciting to see everybody participating in that because we really do want to get around the nation visiting different gyms. You can also support USPK, encourage your coaches to get memberships, encourage your coaches to go compete, build up a youth team so that your youth can be competing. And just publishing information about the competitions in your region, educating your families about the competitions. It'll be good for us and good for your gym. The biggest thing I would say to hype everybody up for nationals is I will have gummy bears, I will have hugs, I will be handing out gummy bears and hugs to everyone at nationals. I've already ordered a bunch of stickers. Will be bringing my one-woman hype squad to nationals, and it's just what an incredible time. We're going to go take over this little town in Texas, and you get to come together for the weekend and participate in an amazing event in an amazing gym that you probably haven't been to yet and eat gummy bears. I mean, what could be better than that?
I hope to see you there. I really do. It's a fantastic event, and we've got some really cool stuff in store this year. So it's going to be building upon last year. It's going to be bigger, better, and I'm really hoping that it starts to feel like a reunion. You start to get people, like if you've shown up to a jam consistently, that just kind of recognize each other, and it's family vibes. That's my hope.
I will see you at nationals.